All right, this video is about Module 80, which is officially the end of IEP Psych. So yay for that. This video is about altruism and peacekeeping. So the first thing is that altruism is this unselfish regard for others. And so if you think about it as being altruistic, when people talk about someone being very altruistic, that means that they are giving to others without really expecting anything in return or, any sort of like gain for them personally. Okay. So you could argue, there's a lot of business owners out there that people argue are altruistic because, they donate money to charities. Some people say that altruistic and other people's like, well, they get their name in the papers, is that really unselfish? Yeah, it's hard to say. But here's the thing is that hopefully one of the things that I want you to do, if you have not done already, was module or handout 59-6, and it's this altruism inventory. Basically, it's looking at why do you volunteer. So for us at Chatard, yes, you are required to volunteer a certain number of hours and, like categories, but ultimately, why do people volunteer? So the scoring for this, the interesting thing about this is that the scoring has several different categories as far as why you are altruistic. Why do you unselfishly give to others, the welfare of others, helping other people? So they're basically 6 categories. Obviously, the first one being values, and it's an to express an act on important values like humanitarianism. So that's part of who you are. So on the handout 59-6, this includes items 3, 8, 16, 19, and 22. So you got to add up your scores for that and divide by 5. Okay. If you're doing altruism for understanding to learn more about people or to acquire some particular skills, maybe you're volunteering to learn about a particular group of people, or maybe it's like in your field that you're eventually going into, so you're trying to acquire those skills. That's going to be understanding. So that's items 12, 14, 18, 25, and 30. Again, add up your scores on those, divide by 5. For enhancement is the third reason. So that's to boost your own self-worth and confidence. So this is going to be items 5, 13, 26, 27, and 29. Again, add up the scores from those 5, divide by 5. Career, to gain career related experience, and that's kind of, I kind of mentioned that for understanding, I guess, with acquiring skills, but this would be like a separate, specific to a particular career. You volunteer, for example, if you're going to be, you want to be a doctor or nurse, you volunteer in the hospital maybe, right? So this is going to be items 1, 10, 15, 21, and 28. Again, add up your scores, divide by 5. Social, maybe you volunteer just to be a part of a group and to strengthen those social relationships. So maybe, it's just because you're part of your church group, your youth group, or, part of a friend group that they're all kind of doing a particular project or volunteering someplace. Again, add up 2, 4, 6, 17, and 23, the scores for those items down here, and divide by 5. And the last reason is protective. And so the protective part is going to be to reduce negative feelings such as guilt. So, maybe you feel guilty because you have something that others do not. And so, you help out in that reason. So that's items 7, 9, 11, 20, and 24. So that's kind of interesting as far as looking at why are you volunteering. Like I said, Chatard makes you, but in general, why do you choose to be altruistic? Okay, so going back to notes, I mentioned what altruism is. So your altruism is, giving, I like this picture, giving a, piece of yourself to somebody else who's missing that piece. It's kind of cute, right? So why do we help each other? So it boils down to a couple of reasons. The first thing is that a lot of times sometimes you notice people that are in need of help, and you take responsibility to help them. You take it upon yourself to help other people. However, there is research that shows this something called a bystander effect. And a bystander effect is when you actually don't assume responsibility. You see everybody else around, and this is usually happens when there's a lot of people around, and you don't take it personally, and you think, well, somebody else will help them, right? And so there's terrible stories about this where, this guy's lying on the ground, and it says, oh, geez, he really doesn't need help. This person says, he'll be okay. I'm sure somebody else will help him. I guess he's drunk. They think he's drunk, right? No one's helping because they think that everybody thinks that somebody else will help. However, the research shows that if you're the only one around, you're much more likely to add assistance, to offer assistance. So that's one reason people may help. There's also this idea of a social exchange theory. Social exchange theory is this idea that you will help when the benefits outweigh the costs. So you will help and you will offer to volunteer, or you'll be altruistic, for example, when the benefits to you are outweighing the cost. So it's not really costing you a whole lot. Okay. So for example, for myself, I can talk about I have been a Girl Scout leader. And this is actually a picture of my Girl Scout troop when I was a Girl Scout leader. This was when they were in 8th grade. Oh. So I was a Girl Scout leader, and I started being a Girl Scout leader when my daughter was in 1st grade. And the reason that is because I signed her up for Girl Scouts, and of course they always ask, are you willing to be a leader? And at the time I was like, I could be an assistant. I don't really want to plan it. I'm like, I don't know if I have time for that. And then eventually I got paired up with somebody that was going to be the leader, and I was going to be the assistant leader. And then she dropped out. And again, the benefits outweighing the cost. Well, hey, the benefit is if I didn't step up and be the leader, my daughter wouldn't have a Girl Scout troop. And again, I continue to be the leader ever since she was in 1st grade all the way up through 8th grade because, hey, if I wasn't the leader, they wouldn't have a troop, right? Who was going to do it? So the benefits in giving these girls some sort of positive connection with other people and doing some service work and things like that far outweigh the cost of my time. And you know what? I got to know a really good group of girls. So that was my social exchange theory. You could also have reciprocity norm. The reciprocity norm is why we help people because helping people who have helped us in the past. So you help others that have helped you. So one example of this, for example, if you've ever helped at your grade school's open house. So I picked out St. Simon, for example. This was an advertisement for St. Simon's open house. Hey, if you went to St. Simon, have you ever gone back to help? Or maybe in the case of, maybe it was a case that, some other person that helped you along the way, right? So maybe even in school, somebody helped you figure out an answer to a particular class, and now you're helping them with another class, right? Reciprocity norm. You help me, I help you. And the last reason is this social responsibility norm. This is that idea that we help those that need help. Okay, social responsibility and help those that need help. So for example, Best Buddies. Best Buddies group is great for helping people that, maybe normally would have a hard time fitting in a high school, right? So they're going to be making sure that they feel included, right? You could also talk about help those that need help. What about the elderly? What about, young children, right? Those are also people that would be social responsibility norm and why we help those that we do. Okay, so that's why we help other people. So let's talk about conflict and peace resolutions. So first off, how does conflict develop? So when I'm talking about conflict, I'm talking about conflict between individual people, but also conflicts between groups of people. So sometimes by looking out for yourself rather than for the group, you harm the group. This is what we call a social trap. So what that means is that by looking out for me, myself, and I, hey, I'm not willing to help other people. And so as a result, you harm the group by only doing, for example, what was assigned to me. Maybe I missed something that the group needed to do, right? So it says, don't fall for the social trap. Instead, work with others for mutual benefit to better the community, nation, and humanity as a whole. So, hey, looking out for yourself. Well, hey, I'm walking along in the park with my dog, and my dog goes and takes a crap in the grass. Well, looking out for myself, gee, I didn't remember to bring along a plastic bag. So if I pick it up. I'd have to pick it up with my hand. Ugh, gross. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, well, it helps me, but you're harming the group because now those other people that use the park, for example, are going to be harmed. They have to, look at that. They have to smell it. It pollutes. And what if everybody did that? That's terrible, right? Other reasons that conflict develops is what we call mirror image perceptions. And this is the idea that each side sees the other as being evil and them being as good. And so you don't necessarily see the commonality between the two. So a great example of this is a lot of, world leaders. So I just picked out two that, obviously are not in power anymore. So people in conflict form but diabolical images of one another. And Saddam Hussein, for example, said about George W. Bush that he's a wicked, George W. Bush said about Saddam Hussein, he's a wicked pharaoh. But Saddam Hussein said George Bush was evil. Again, it depends on your perception, right? And so it's this mirror image where they, see the other side as completely evil and there's nothing good at all about them, and they're perfect, right? So that also leads to conflict. So what do you do? Okay, so how to promote peace? First off, have non-competitive contact. What does that mean? That means, get together just for the sake of, getting together. That's why we have, for example, United Nations, and we have sometimes summits and world leaders get together not with the intention of any particular goal or trying to compete with one another. They're also working on shared goals. So this is what we call superordinate goals. So what if we work together on shared goals on together? Hey, we want to make the environment a better place, right? We want to clean up the environment. Hey, we want to get rid of COVID-19. Working together on a shared goal, that's going to promote peace. Sometimes they need a mediator, depending upon what the conflict is. So a third party that's going to get involved and kind of lead the discussion on trying to resolve the conflict. And then there's also this thing called grit. Grit is this graduated and reciprocated initiatives intention reduction. Yeah, I know it's long. That's why they call it grit. But it's the idea that you recognize mutual interests. So maybe, for example, hey, environment is something that we all are interested in, we want to be better at, right? And then they have small pacifying acts, which is then reciprocated. What that means is that maybe they're all agreeing on, for example, improving the environment. Okay, well, small acts. Each one is going to try to do a small act to improve the environment. Maybe, we're reducing emissions by 10%. That doesn't sound like a lot, but, it is. If each party agrees to, 10%, and then maybe we increase it to 12, and then 15, and then whatever, So the idea of graduated and reciprocated initiatives. So small steps along the way, and it's reciprocated. So one party starts, the other one responds. So we're going back and forth. So that's how we're going to promote peace. All right, hopefully that made sense. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk with you guys later. Thanks for watching.